The massive alien ships appeared without warning. They simply materialized above every major city on Earth, their dark hulls blocking out the sun like artificial clouds. Humanity's first contact with alien life came not with a message of peace, but with an ultimatum that would change everything. Admiral James Walker stood at the podium in the United Nations Emergency Assembly, his weathered face illuminated by the harsh lighting. Through the grand windows behind him, one of the alien vessels loomed over New York City, a constant reminder of their situation. His white uniform, adorned with medals from years of service to the United Earth Defense Force, seemed to gleam under the spotlights. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. 12 hours ago, the beings calling themselves the Galactic Council sent their demands to every government on Earth. They believe we are too dangerous, too unpredictable to join galactic society as equals. The room erupted in angry murmurs. Walker raised his hand, calling for silence. On the massive screen behind him, the alien message played again. High Commander Rex's hologram towered over the assembly, his 4 eyes glowing with contempt as he spoke in perfectly translated English. "People of Earth," the alien leader's voice boomed, "your civilization has been deemed too volatile for independent status. You will surrender your military capabilities and submit to Council stewardship. This is not a negotiation. You have 30 Earth days to comply." Walker clicked off the replay and turned back to the assembly. "They think we're savages," he continued, his fingers gripping the podium's edges. "They look at our conflicts, our divisions, and see only chaos. But they don't understand what makes humanity strong." In the front row, the Chinese representative stood up. "And what do you suggest, Admiral? Their ships are beyond anything we possess. A single one of their vessels could level a continent." Walker smiled, but there was steel in his expression. "That's what they want us to think. But ask yourselves, why give us 30 days? If they're so superior, why not simply take what they want?" He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. "They fear something about us." The Russian representative was next to speak. "Fear? They have energy shields, faster than light travel. We would be fighting with sticks against a hurricane." "Would we?" Walker pressed a button, and new images filled the screen. These photos were taken by our deep space telescopes. The Council ships, impressive as they are, use standardized designs, standardized tactics. They've grown comfortable in their superiority. He changed the image to a star chart, and they've grown sloppy. We've detected their communication signals, their fleet movements. They're spreading themselves thin, watching every major population center. The assembly stirred. Walker could see the spark of hope beginning to kindle in their eyes. "Humanity has never bowed to tyrants," he continued. "Yes, they have advanced technology. Yes, they have numbers. But we have something they don't expect." He stood straighter, his voice rising with conviction. "We have the strength that comes from struggle. Every advancement humanity has made came from overcoming impossible odds. We didn't reach for the stars because it was easy. We did it because it was hard. And now, when faced with an enemy that thinks they can simply demand our submission..." He shook his head. "They have no idea what humanity is capable of when we stand together." The assembly chamber fell silent as his words sank in. Outside, the alien ship's shadow still loomed, but it no longer seemed quite so overwhelming. "The Council gave us 30 days to surrender," Walker said into the silence. "I say we show them exactly why they should have been more afraid of us. I say we take these 30 days and make them regret ever thinking they could break the human spirit." One by one, the representatives began to stand. The movement spread like a wave until the entire assembly was on its feet. No one spoke. They didn't need to. In the face of extinction, humanity had found its unity. As Walker looked out over the determined faces before him, he allowed himself a small smile. The Galactic Council thought they were dealing with primitives. In 30 days, they would learn just how wrong they were. Deep within the Rocky Mountains, past layers of security and thousands of feet of solid rock, Dr. Alice Reed stood before a piece of technology that wasn't supposed to exist. The laboratory hummed with energy as dozens of scientists worked at their stations, but all eyes kept drifting to the gleaming silver disk suspended in the center of the room. 20 years, she said, touching the protective glass that separated them from the artifact. 20 years since that scout ship crashed in the desert. They thought they cleaned up every trace. She turned to Admiral Walker, who had just arrived from New York. They didn't count on human determination. Walker stepped closer to the glass, his reflection mixing with the glow of the alien technology behind it. Will it work? Alice smiled and led him to a large display screen. Better than we hoped. Project Phoenix isn't just reverse-engineered alien tech. It's something entirely new. She brought up a series of diagrams. The Council races use standardized technology. They stopped innovating centuries ago, but we took their basic principles and went in directions they never imagined. The screen showed Earth, surrounded by a web of glowing lines. They think their shields are the peak of defensive technology. But we discovered something they missed. Earth's magnetic field isn't just a natural phenomenon. It's a tool we can use. Walker watched as the simulation played out. The web of lines crystallized into a barrier that encompassed the entire planet. You're telling me we can shield the whole Earth? Not just shield it. Alice replied, her eyes bright with excitement. We can turn their own weapons against them. The magnetic field will act like a lens, focusing and redirecting energy. Every shot they fire will only make our defenses stronger. She led him through a heavy security door into another chamber. Here, rows of missiles stood ready, but they looked different from any weapon Walker had seen before. Their casings were laced with an odd shimmering metal that seemed to bend light around it. Hybrid weapons, Alice explained. Human ingenuity combined with alien metals. They'll pass right through Council shields. The shields are designed to stop pure energy weapons, not our more creative solutions. Walker picked up a tablet showing test results. How many do we have? Enough for a first strike. Production facilities in every major nation are working round the clock. The Council's ultimatum actually helped. For the first time, the whole world is working together. She paused, her expression growing serious. There's something else you need to see. They took an elevator even deeper into the mountain. The doors opened onto a massive hangar, and Walker's breath caught in his throat. 3 sleek ships hung in the massive space, unlike anything built on Earth. Their designs combined the smooth lines of alien technology with the practical functionality of human engineering. We call them the Phoenix class, Alice said proudly, built using everything we learned. They're smaller than Council ships, but faster and more maneuverable. And they have a few surprises that no one in the galaxy has ever seen before. Walker walked slowly around the nearest ship, taking in its weapon systems and engine design. How long have you been building these? Since the crash. Every nation pooled their resources in secret. Everyone knew first contact was coming eventually. We just didn't know if it would be friendly. She checked her tablet. They're ready for deployment. We have crews trained in simulators, waiting for the order. Walker turned to her. The Council thinks we're primitives scrambling to respond to their ultimatum. How many other secret projects like this do we have? Alice's smile widened. Enough to make them regret ever threatening Earth. We're not the savages they think we are, Admiral. We're the nightmare they never saw coming. As if in response, the ship's systems hummed to life, its hull gleaming under the hangar lights. Above them, the Council ships still hung in orbit, watching for any sign of resistance. They had no idea that deep beneath the mountains, humanity was preparing a response that would shake the foundations of their galactic empire. High Commander Rex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth's blue surface through the viewing screen. Only 10 days had passed since delivering the ultimatum, but he had grown tired of waiting. The humans were clearly stalling, and he saw no reason to give them more time to accept the inevitable. "Begin the attack," he ordered, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Show them the price of defiance." Across Earth's orbit, 500 Council ships moved into attack position, their weapon systems powered up, creating a web of deadly energy above the planet. On the ground, millions watched in terror as the ships began to glow with building power. In the Mountain Command Center, Dr. Alice Reed's fingers flew across her control panel. "They're attacking early," she reported, her voice steady despite the stakes. "Their energy readings are off the charts." Admiral Walker nodded grimly. "They want to make an example of us. Activate Project Phoenix." Alice pressed her hand against the biometric scanner. Around the world, other scientists did the same in their hidden facilities. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, machines that had waited years for this moment hummed to life. The Council ships fired. Beams of devastating energy shot toward major cities across the globe. High Commander Rex allowed himself a satisfied smile, which froze as he watched what happened next. Earth's magnetic field became visible, shimmering like a vast aurora. The Council's energy weapons struck this barrier and changed. Instead of destroying their targets, the beams curved and twisted, following the magnetic field lines in a dance of light that encircled the planet. "Impossible," Rex whispered. "Their technology level." "Sir," his tactical officer shouted. "The energy readings, they're being redirected." The shield wasn't just stopping their attack, it was absorbing it, growing stronger with each shot. The humans had turned the planet's own magnetic field into a weapon. In the mountain base, Alice watched her readings with fierce satisfaction. Shield at full power, all systems functioning perfectly. She looked at Walker, ready for counterattack. Walker picked up his secure phone. "Launch the Phoenix Squadron." Around the world, hidden hangar doors opened in mountains, deserts, and beneath the seas. The hybrid ships they'd built in secret rose into the air, their engines glowing with a combination of human and alien technology. On his flagship, Rex was still trying to understand what had gone wrong when new alerts blared. "Unknown vessels approaching," his sensor officer reported. "Their design, it's impossible. They're using our technology, but in ways we've never seen." The Phoenix Squadron struck with devastating precision. Their smaller ships darted between the Council vessels, firing weapons that bypassed alien shields completely. The hybrid missiles they launched phased through energy barriers like they weren't even there, detonating against the Council ships' hulls. "How?" Rex demanded as explosions blossomed across his fleet. "They're primitives. They couldn't have developed this technology." Back on Earth, Alice and Walker watched the battle unfold on their screens. The Council ships were trying to regroup, but they were trained for fighting conventional battles against known enemies. Nothing in their experience had prepared them for this. 27 Council ships destroyed, Alice reported. "No losses to our forces yet. Their standardized shields had no defense against our hybrid weapons." Walker watched as another Council ship erupted in flames. "Send the message." On every Council ship's command frequency, Walker's voice rang out. "This is Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Defense Force. Your attack on Earth has failed. Withdraw now, or face the consequences of your actions. You thought we were primitives. Now you know better." High Commander Rex stared at his tactical display in shock as more of his ships fell to the human attack. They had expected to find a primitive civilization cowering before their might. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one that had been preparing for this day for decades. "All ships, retreat," he ordered, his voice shaking with rage and disbelief. "Fall back to the rally point." As the Council fleet fled in disarray, cheers erupted in command centers across Earth. But Walker and Alice exchanged knowing looks. This was only the beginning. The Council would be back, and next time they wouldn't underestimate humanity. Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of the Phoenix One, Earth's first deep space flagship, as it emerged from its faster-than-light jump. Around him, the bridge crew worked at their stations, combining human intuition with alien technology in ways the Council had never imagined. "Status report," he ordered, watching as the rest of Earth's fleet materialized behind them. "Council Defense Fleet detected at the edge of the solar system," his tactical officer reported. 40 ships, standard formation. They're not expecting us to strike so far from Earth." Walker smiled. The Council's biggest weakness was their rigid thinking. They expected humanity to cower behind their planetary shield, not to take the fight to enemy territory. "Launch our gravity probes," he commanded. Another innovation the Council would never expect. Humans had learned to use gravity itself as a weapon. Small, dark objects shot out from the Earth ships, invisible to standard sensors. They activated near a nearby asteroid field, their effect immediate and devastating. The gravitational forces pulled chunks of space rock into new orbits, creating a deadly field of moving obstacles. Council ships responding. The tactical officer announced. "They're breaking formation to avoid the asteroids." "Just as planned," Walker said. "They think in straight lines. Let's show them how humans fight." The Earth fleet split into smaller groups, each ship moving in seemingly random patterns. To the Council forces, it looked like chaos. But there was a method to this madness. On the Council command ship, the alien admiral watched in confusion. "What are they doing? Their formation makes no sense." Then the trap closed. The human ships had used the scattered asteroids to hide their approach. They emerged from behind the space rocks, firing their hybrid weapons at point-blank range. Council ships, their shields designed to stop energy weapons, found themselves torn apart by weapons that combined physical and energy attacks. "This is impossible," the Council admiral shouted as explosions rocked his ship. "They're using gravity fields as weapons. They're using asteroids as cover. These tactics aren't in any combat manual." Walker's voice came over their communications. "That's your problem. You rely too much on manuals." The Earth ships danced through space, using moves inspired by Earth's air combat heroes. They pulled maneuvers that the Council's larger ships couldn't match, diving through gaps in asteroid fields that their enemies wouldn't dare attempt. "Sir," Walker's science officer called out, "they're trying to call for reinforcements." "Perfect." Walker pressed a button on his command chair. "Dr. Reed, are you ready?" In the mountain base back on Earth, Alice sat at her control station. "Ready, Admiral." Starting Operation Solar Wind. She activated a new system they'd developed. Using the lessons learned from Earth's magnetic shield, they had found a way to harness the sun's own energy output. A massive solar flare, guided by their technology, erupted toward the battlefield. The Council ships detected the incoming wave of solar plasma too late. Their standard shields, already weakened by the hybrid weapons, couldn't adapt to this new threat. The solar wind swept through their formation, disrupting their communications and overloading their systems. "This is how humans wage war," Walker broadcast to the enemy fleet. "We use everything around us. Every force of nature becomes our ally. You thought we were primitive because we didn't follow your rules of combat. The truth is, we're dangerous because we never learned those rules." The remaining Council ships began to retreat, their formation broken, their confidence shattered. What had started as a simple patrol action had turned into a devastating defeat. Back on the Phoenix One's bridge, Walker watched them flee. Damage report. 3 ships with minor damage, no casualties, his executive officer reported. Council forces have lost 28 ships. The rest are in full retreat. Walker nodded. The victory was significant, but he knew this was just the beginning. The Council would send more ships, larger fleets. But now they knew that humanity wasn't just defending Earth. They were taking the fight to the stars. "Set course for their nearest supply base," he ordered. "It's time to show the Council that when you threaten humanity, we don't just resist. We strike back." The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with angry voices. Hundreds of representatives from different species filled the massive room, their arguments echoing off the crystal walls. At the center of the storm, High Commander Rex faced the growing rebellion within his own ranks. 3 major defeats. One council member shouted, his scaled skin flushing with anger. First Earth itself, then our patrol fleet, and now one of our main supply bases. How can primitives do this to us? Rex slammed his fist on the podium. They caught us by surprise. Nothing more. Our main fleet will crush them, like they crushed them at Earth. Ambassador Trell stepped forward, her silver robes gleaming under the chamber's lights. Unlike most council members, she had always argued for peaceful contact with new species. These humans have done what no one else dared to do. They've shown that the council isn't invincible. News screens around the chamber showed footage from the battles. Human ships dancing through asteroid fields, using gravity as a weapon, turning solar winds into tools of war. Each replay brought more angry mutters from the gathered representatives. The humans should have been peaceful primitives, Rex growled. Our reports said. Our reports were wrong. Trell's voice cut through the chamber. We looked at their conflicts and saw only violence. We should have seen their creativity, their drive to improve. She turned to address the whole chamber. And now other species are asking questions we don't want to answer. It was true. Across council space, subject races watched the news of Earth's resistance with growing interest. Ships from the trading fleet brought stories of quiet rebellions, of people wondering why they should obey the council's rules. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, another news report from the front lines. Admiral Walker's voice played over images of council ships retreating from Earth's forces. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every species that's been told they must obey without question. The age of the council's absolute rule is over. The chamber erupted again. Rex tried to restore order, but Trell's voice rose above the chaos. I move for an immediate vote of no confidence in the military leadership. This war was a mistake from the beginning. You dare. Rex's face darkened with rage. I've led the council forces for 50 years. And in those 50 years, how many species have we helped? Trell demanded. How many have we crushed under our guidance because they were different, because they didn't follow our rules? She gestured to the images of Earth's ships. The humans show us a different way. They combine technologies we never thought could work together. They find solutions we never imagined. In the back of the chamber, representatives from younger council races began to stand up. One by one, they moved to Trell's side of the room. Even some of the older members, watching their carefully controlled order crumble, began to shift their positions. I've made contact with Earth's leaders, Trell announced, causing gasps throughout the chamber. They don't want to destroy the council. They want to change it, to make it what it should have been all along, a true alliance of equals. Traitor. Rex reached for his ceremonial weapon, but guards were already moving to surround him. In the council chamber, violence was the ultimate admission of defeat. The vote will proceed, Trell declared. And then we will send a real diplomatic mission to Earth, not with demands, but with an offer of peace. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various representatives. The humans have taught us that strength doesn't come from forcing others to follow our way. It comes from learning from each other, from growing together. As Rex was led away by the guards, Trell watched the continuing footage of Earth's innovative battle tactics. The humans had done more than just resist. They had sparked a revolution in the very heart of the council. Change was coming to the galaxy, whether the old guard liked it or not. Admiral Walker studied the holographic map showing the council's main military command center. Around him, on the bridge of Phoenix 1, his crew made final preparations for humanity's boldest move yet. The massive space station hung in orbit around a red giant star, supposedly untouchable behind layers of defenses. Ambassador Trell's information was perfect, he said, pointing to weak spots in the station's shield coverage. They never expected anyone to actually attack their headquarters. Dr. Alice Reed, who had insisted on joining this mission, worked at a nearby console. Their overconfidence is our greatest weapon. They still think like rulers, not fighters. The Earth fleet had gathered in secret, hidden behind a dense asteroid field. 50 ships, the best humanity had to offer, waited for the signal to attack. But this time, they weren't alone. Ships from other species, inspired by Earth's resistance, had joined them. Message from the rebel ships, Walker's communications officer reported. They're in position and ready. Walker nodded. This was what the Council feared most, not just humanity's resistance, but the way it sparked hope in others. The station ahead of them held not only the military command, but also High Commander Rex, who had escaped custody during the Council's political chaos. Begin Operation Sunrise, Walker ordered. The first phase of the attack didn't come from ships at all. Following Earth's strategy, they had secretly planted gravity devices throughout the asteroid field weeks ago. Now these activated, hurling thousands of rocks toward the station's defenses. The Council's automated systems responded exactly as expected, their shields lighting up to destroy the incoming asteroids. But that was just the distraction. Energy spike detected. A Council officer shouted inside the station, "Something's happening to the star." They had learned this trick defending Earth. But now they used it on a much larger scale. The Earth ships had modified the solar weather of the red giant itself, creating a massive solar storm that battered the station's shields from the other direction. Impossible. Rex raged from his command post. No one can control a star. But Alice had done exactly that. Just as they had turned Earth's magnetic field into a weapon, they now used the star's own power against their enemies. The station's shields, caught between asteroid impacts and solar fury, began to flicker. Now, Walker commanded. The Earth fleet broke from cover, but not in a direct attack. Instead, they split into smaller groups, each executing a different part of the plan. Some ships darted between the station's defensive platforms, destroying them with precision strikes. Others created artificial gravity wells, disrupting the carefully planned paths of Council patrol ships. At the same time, their alien allies emerged from hiding on the far side of the star. The station's defenders found themselves caught in a trap, fighting enemies from all directions. Inside the station, alarms blared as systems began to fail. How are they doing this? Rex demanded, watching his defenses crumble. These tactics make no sense. They violate every principle of space combat. That's exactly why they work, a junior officer replied, his voice filled with unexpected admiration. The humans never learned what was supposed to be impossible. A new alarm sounded. Borders had breached the station. Teams of humans and alien rebels fought their way through the corridors, using hybrid weapons that bypassed internal security systems. They weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting to capture the station intact. Walker led the assault himself, moving through the station with practiced efficiency. All teams converge on the command center, he ordered. End this now. Rex waited behind locked doors, watching security feeds as sector after sector fell to the attackers. Everything he had believed about humanity's primitive nature had been wrong. They hadn't just learned to use advanced technology. They had revolutionized it. "Sir," his last loyal officer reported, "they've breached the final defenses. We have to surrender." As Walker's team burst into the command center, Rex finally understood his greatest mistake. He had judged humanity by their level of technology, not by their spirit. Now, as he raised his hands in surrender, he realized that spirit had changed the galaxy forever. The new council chamber looked nothing like the old one. Gone were the towering thrones that had placed senior members above the rest. Instead, representatives from every species sat in a circular arrangement, symbolizing their equal status. At the center of this historic gathering stood Admiral Walker and Dr. Alice Reed, Earth's chosen representatives. "The galaxy stands at a crossroads," Ambassador Trell announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "The old council has fallen. High Commander Rex and his supporters await trial for their crimes. Now we must decide what comes next." The chamber was packed with delegates from hundreds of worlds. Some were former council races, others had been subjects, and still others were newly discovered civilizations that had hidden from the old regime. All watched as Walker stepped forward to speak. Earth was supposed to be an easy target. He began, his voice steady and clear. A primitive world that would quickly submit to council authority. Instead, we showed the galaxy something it had forgotten. The power of innovation, of thinking differently. He gestured to the diverse gathering around him. Look at what we've achieved together in just these few months. Holographic displays showed the changes spreading across council space. Worlds that had been forced to follow rigid technological guidelines were now developing their own hybrid technologies, inspired by Earth's example. Trade routes that had once been tightly controlled now flowed freely between species. Alice stepped forward next, activating a display of her own. We've already begun sharing our advances with other worlds, she said, not as masters teaching servants, but as equals learning from each other. Every species has something unique to offer. The display showed scenes from different planets. Earth scientists working alongside alien engineers, combining their knowledge in ways the old council would never have allowed. Ships of mixed designs patrolled trade routes together, each adding their own strengths to the coalition. But the greatest change, Trell added, isn't in our technology. It's in how we see each other. She turned to address the entire chamber. The old council believed strength came from control, from forcing everyone to follow the same path. Earth showed us that true strength comes from diversity, from finding new ways to solve problems. A delegate from one of the formerly subjected worlds stood up. We were told we were too primitive to govern ourselves, that we needed the council's guidance. But Earth proved that being different doesn't mean being inferior. Walker nodded. That's why we're proposing a new kind of council. Not an empire ruling from above, but a true alliance. Every member world will have an equal voice. Every species will be free to develop in their own way, sharing knowledge rather than having it forced upon them. The chamber erupted in discussion, but this time it wasn't angry shouting. Representatives from different worlds turned to their neighbors, talking excitedly about possibilities that had been forbidden just months ago. There will be challenges, Alice acknowledged. Change isn't easy, but look how far we've come already. When races work together by choice rather than force, there's nothing we can't achieve. Trell raised her hands for attention. Let us vote then, not on whether to accept Earth into our alliance. They've more than earned their place, but on whether to accept this new vision for our future. The vote was taken electronically, results appearing instantly on the chamber's displays. The approval was overwhelming. As the numbers appeared, cheers broke out across the chamber. Walker turned to Alice, sharing a quiet smile. They had come so far from those tense days when alien ships first appeared above Earth. What had started as a fight for survival had turned into something much more. A revolution that had transformed the galaxy. The age of the old council is over, Trell declared officially. Welcome to the new Galactic Alliance, where every voice matters and every species is free to reach for the stars in their own way. As the chamber celebrated, Earth's representatives knew this was just the beginning. Humanity hadn't just defended itself, it had helped create a new era of cooperation and discovery. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, full of possibilities that were no longer forbidden but embraced.